Hello everyone, welcome to the 8th episode in our Kerbal Space program Let's Play. In this episode we're going to be building a upgrade along with a return ship for the space station that we launched last episode. As you can see from this ship, the two main things that we're going to be upgrading are the solar power generation capability along with the overall battery capacity. I've got these solar panels on two sort of arms that will be able to swing out on those robotic actuators at the bottom of them. They're currently secured to the ship with some radial detachers along with some struts, and that should be pretty stable for now. Other than that, this is looking pretty good to go. Just need a little bit of tuning on our overall mass, but I think that this is just about ready to be launched into orbit. With the rocket safely in orbit, it's time for us to figure out our rendezvous with Asteria. Right now we're at a lower orbit than it is, so we're going to be traveling faster around Kerbin than it will. What we need to do is catch up to it to the point where we can eventually fly out towards it, traveling faster than it the whole way out there, and then end up right next to it and match its speed. To gain some precision with this transfer, we've reduced the thrust of this ship to about 30% of what it's able to do normally. I like to have my burn time be around 20 to 30 seconds, ideally, because that gives you enough wiggle room that you should be able to fine-tune things and make up for mistakes that you've made earlier on in the burn. We're pretty close to the station here, and all that we need to do now is match our velocity with it. We end up around 17 kilometers away from the station when we cancel out our relative velocity. It's not the greatest rendezvous ever, but it's pretty manageable. I mean, the only downside is that it's just going to take a little bit longer to get there, and we're going to have to use up a bit more fuel than we were planning to, but we still have a whole lot of fuel. After a decent amount of work, we end up near the station, and all that we need to do now is rotate the two ships to face each other and then complete the docking procedure. As we watch these two ships come into dock, I think it's worthwhile to talk about what we're planning on doing with this booster section. So right now we have a lot of issues when we go into the shade. These solar panels will help out with when we're in the sun, but we don't really have a huge number of batteries, and we don't necessarily have enough to survive when we go into the shade. So the plan is to use the booster when we are on the nighttime side of the planet. What that will do is raise our apoapsis on the daytime side. That means that when we're on the daytime side, when we're at our apoapsis, we'll be traveling more slowly. And when we're at our periapsis on the nighttime side, we'll be traveling much more quickly, which means that we will spend less time in the nighttime side. Hopefully meaning that we'll be able to survive without our batteries running out of juice. I'm really in love with this new expansion that they have for KSP. These little robotic parts that allow you to do things like having these arms rotate out. They really add something to these stations. Even something as simple as that one little moving part, I think it makes them a little bit special. With all that setup taken care of, it's time to go ahead and use this upgrade that we sent up and boost the station into a higher orbit. I turned the thrusters up to 100% here because it was going to take 4 minutes to burn. I do not have that kind of time. Once this burn is completed, our apoapsis should be around 2 million meters, which I think should be sufficiently high to test out whether or not this is a good station. We save a little bit of delta V there at the end of that burn because this booster stage is also going to be our return stage. Once everything is taken care of, we end up putting it in this T position here so that we can maximize exposure to the solar panels from the sun. We want to be getting as much energy as we can to see how we will do when we're actually in the sunlight. We've been in space for a few days now and things have gotten a little bit rough. I popped open the health monitor there for just a second. Bob is down to 9 days of health left and the rest of the crew is down to 29 days left. So Bob is a scientist, which means that unfortunately for him, we can do with him being knocked out. All that we're going to do is get a little bit less science. We still have a pilot, so we'll still be able to land. So we're going to be continuing this mission, probably against his wishes, a bit longer than he'll be able to survive for. We jump ahead about 20 days here, and much to Bob's delight, it is time for the crew to come home. We've gotten a decent amount of science, not as much as I necessarily would have liked, but we've learned a few lessons here, and I think that we can call this mission successful. Because our periapsis is so low, it should be a pretty short burn to bring us back down into the atmosphere of Kerbin. Again, we're going to be targeting around 20 kilometers. Soon enough, we are just seconds away from coming into contact with the atmosphere of Kerbin, and it's time for us to get rid of the rest of the fuel in our service module. Realistically, this is only going to slow us down around 10% of our current velocity, which is not necessarily going to make a huge difference, but every little bit counts. We get rid of the service module in our favorite way, and once that's taken care of, it's time to head home. After a little bit of confusion, Herzer pops out for a well-deserved swim, collects a surface sample, and we have completed the mission. 16 science from experiments, but we got a decent amount from the science lab. I don't know precisely, probably around 40 or 50. So with this, we're going to purchase propulsion systems, and I think that with that will be the end of the episode. Thank you very much for tuning in, everyone, and I'll see you next time.